Hello and welcome to this episode of the Atheist Experience. We're broadcasting live today on Sunday, September 3rd, 2017, and I'm your host, Tracie Harris, and with me to start the show this week is Clare Wuellner. She's going to talk to us a little bit about Hurricane Harvey relief efforts, and then later, John Iacoletti, the regularly scheduled co-host, will be joining us for regular programming. Just to do a few messages and intro notes before we start. The Atheist Experience is sponsored by Atheist Community of Austin, a Texas nonprofit educational organization that is dedicated to separation of church and state and promoting positive atheism. You can catch us live every Sunday on YouTube or Ustream and comment on current shows at the current show thread supplied for each episode at our blog at freethoughtsblog.com/AXP. John has assured me that the blog post has gone up, so it should already be there and ready for comments. You can add comments on YouTube. You can add comments while the show is live on YouTube, but you can add them later on at the blog. Additionally, you can write to the show at tv@atheist-community.org, or you can join the Atheist Experience official discussion group on Facebook. If you enjoy this show, you may also enjoy our other ACA podcast, The Nonprofits, which airs on the first and third Wednesday nights of each month. Links are available at the Atheist Experience website. After the show, the cast and crew go out to dinner at Star of India Restaurant at 2900 West Anderson Lane. We arrive a little after 6 p.m., and the dinner is a social event that's open to atheists or atheist-friendly people. Finally, just to note that Austin Pride Festival is being rescheduled because of Hurricane Harvey. I'm not sure if a new date has been released as of today. I did go on and Google, but you might want to be sure and Google that for yourself if you're planning on attending, because I found a few different dates that were listed. And ACA is going to have a booth at the event. We invite everyone to stop by and say hello. Just one final note on the Bat Cruise that's going to be coming up. We have God Awful Movies that's going to be in town for that same weekend. So God Awful Movies is going to be in town on Friday, September 22nd. And then we also have the pre-cruise lecture that happens on the 23rd before the cruise, which also happens on the 23rd. So you can check our website for times and dates and locations, and also to purchase tickets. And I think that's it. That's it for my announcements, but then Clare has some announcements, which is why she's joining us this evening.
All right. So I've been asked to come and represent the Foundation Beyond Belief. I'm on the board, and I'm also on the board of the Atheist Community of Austin, so I am doubly lucky to serve two great organizations, and I'm really pleased to do that. The Foundation Beyond Belief, if you don't know what that is a charitable organization that has four main branches. Behind me you can see the web page, and there's the volunteer network. No matter where you are in the United States, you can get plugged in and have your group be part of a bigger thing if you're a secular group that does good things. There's the Humanist Service Corps, which right now is working in Africa. It's kind of like a secular Peace Corps. Then there's the grants, which every quarter we have new beneficiaries. People donate through Foundation Beyond Belief, so that humanist donations are given a voice. When most organizations donate, like through a church or something, they get a larger voice. And if I donate as a secular humanist or an atheist, it's just Clare Wuellner. But if I do it through Foundation Beyond Belief, we're given a voice, and that's why I feel it's important to donate through them. And then right now, what I'm here for is to talk about the disaster recovery efforts that Foundation Beyond Belief is a part of. There are two main parts to that, and one is that we have boots on the ground. People go in and actually help put the city or whatever has been destroyed. Recently, we had people from the board, the ACA board, go to help put places back together that needed help. So in that, they have people also in a network that's on the volunteer network. But the part that I'm here about for today is that we want to match, the ACA is going to match up to $1,000 of donations from you to contribute to helping people for Hurricane Harvey.
Right, and I've been told that there's supposed to be at some point a button that's going to exist on this part of the screen, and that you should be able to donate using that button. And as Claire said, we're going to match up to $1,000. ACA will go ahead and match those funds, so please feel free to.
But anything over that is fine as well.
Yeah, we're not.
Yes, there's no
We don't
limit.
encourage you to stop it at
Right.
1K.
And I'd like to give a shout out to several people who have already done a lot of advocacy to have people donate to Foundation Beyond Belief. Just so you know, Foundation Beyond Belief, they vet organizations to make sure that what we donate to is in accordance with our beliefs, our humanist beliefs. And so some folks who've already helped with that are the Atheist Manifesto, Marissa Alexa I'm sorry, I need to put my cheaters on. I can't see I tried, but I can't. McCool, Steve Shives, Daniel Moscato, Matt Delhunty, Aaron Raw, Seth Andrews, Thomas Smith, Andrew Torres, and Eli Bosnick. They've already had a fundraiser with a podcast and raised $3,300. Maybe we can do better here at the Atheist Experience. Let's see, that's the crux of it. The money will go to the organization that we've selected is All Hands Volunteers.
Okay.
And we've worked with them before. They are boots on the ground type folks. If you go online and click through our website there, you will see people tearing out drywall and starting over again.
And I know, we were talking earlier before the show started about the devastation that everybody's been witnessing and how hard it is, I guess, to see this so much. I mean, it's saturating the news because it is such a gargantuan tragedy, and the scale and scope of it is so unbelievable. I mean, I hear about the size of the area impacted by the flooding. It's larger. I mean, you think to yourself a city, but it's larger than some states.
It's huge. I have some numbers here. Oops. South Texas has had 3 500-year flooding events in the last 3 years, including Harvey. And FEMA estimates that 450,000 people will apply for assistance. And about 80% of Texans do not have flood insurance.
Well, I mean, a lot of these people that were impacted weren't even in the flood zone.
They were not.
I mean, they didn't even think of themselves as being in flood-prone areas. So this isn't even about, just a general lack of preparedness. I mean, they were living in areas where there was no reason to think that they were going to be at risk.
Right. And even if you haven't been flooded, there's 200,000 people who don't have power. And right there, that has a lot of consequences.
It's horrible with the deaths and the pets. And I mean, just the imagery, I was saying to you that it's like it took me days before I could even post something on Facebook. I had people writing to me and they were like, "Are you okay? Is Austin okay?" And I was just like, I just can't even bring myself to grapple with this because it's so overwhelming. But I just, encourage everybody to move forward despite the overwhelming nature of this, and also to move forward despite the fatigue that can set in when you're like hammered with these images and with this event like over and over again. But it's just necessary for people, I think, to understand the scope.
I couldn't ignore it because Foundation Beyond Belief, we were doing a lot of talking behind the scenes to get this fund drive started. And also the executive director of Foundation Beyond Belief lives in Houston, and she was posting pictures of all of her belongings on top of her dining room table and moving everything up to the second story. That makes it really real when it's somebody you know. It's horrendous. So anything that you can give to help would be very appreciated, and I promise you Foundation Beyond Belief will give it to the very best organization, and the very best things will happen that can happen with that money.
And while I would love to end on a positive note, the fact is there's another one coming.
Yes.
So we've got another one out there in the Gulf that's picking up steam as we speak. I don't know that much about meteorology. In fact, I know nothing about meteorology, but I did see a gentleman talking about it on television, and one of the things he mentioned was that these storms pick up steam while they're over water, and they tend to pick up steam more during the day. So the longer or more days this thing spends out in the water, the bigger this is going to get. And the name of this one coming is Irma. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine it's going to hit similar areas, which if you could stop it, you would.
Yeah, the fourth event in 3 years. That's crazy. It's crazy.
So just don't get fatigued. Try to
Yes.
not get fatigued.
Right.
Try to just keep plugging, keep helping, keep doing what you can.
Yep, do what you can. It's what we're all doing here, and appreciate any part that you can do.
Do we have anything else to go through?
That's the main thing. $1,000. Let's make ACA cough up $1,000.
Do it. We're looking forward to paying it out. So please do what you can to make sure that we pay every penny of it.
All right. Well, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Claire.
this opportunity
I appreciate
to come
coming
and talk
in
to you about it.
and keeping us all posted. Sure. And now I think we're going to have that awkward segue where Claire swaps places with our co-host for today, John Iacoletti. So just please give us a moment of patience while we orchestrate this. As if by magic. What is that? Presto, changeo. John needs to get himself all situated with his sound.
Well, we're back on.
You got your sound and you got your mic. Getting your mic
Not
on.
my mic yet.
We apologize for the weird mic noises. Hey.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Foundation Beyond Belief, and
Definitely.
we have the greatest fans ever. We've been getting dozens and dozens of emails from people saying, you know, I want to help.
How do we help? Yep.
Yeah, what can we do? So I'm grateful to our fans. I'm grateful to the ACA board for doing the matching donations, and
Yep.
let's see what we can do to help.
And they tell me there's a donate button, like right about here.
Yeah, you may need to wave your mouse up there to get a little letter I to pop up, but it's there somewhere. Or you can go to our website or donate via Facebook. There's lots of ways.
Okay. So how are you today?
I'm doing all right. We only got about 6 inches about 6 inches right in Austin, but down in Smithville they got a couple of feet, and we have some property out in Smithville, and we're building a little structure there to replace the one that got destroyed in the fire a couple years ago. So we were a little worried about what it would look like, but we went down yesterday and all is well. And
Oh, that's good.
Smithville is drying out, so that's good news.
Okay. So do you have anything to talk about today, or?
No, I was going to talk about Foundation Beyond Belief as well before we got Claire to come in and do that. So I think we can go to calls. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me put my glasses on here, and then we will go ahead and start. Kevin helped us out with our phone check, so we'll go ahead and start with Kevin. So hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Yeah, you've got some of that background noise going on again, but I think you just dubbed it. I mean, you just quieted it down.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind today?
I think I need to give you a quick background. I guess I'll have the background of saying I was indoctrinated into Christianity, and after a near-death experience as an adult, I just kind of had the idea that God existed, but just, didn't like me. And, watching these atheist shows kind of didn't change my mind. And I kind of answer most questions for myself. And I'm on this last one that I can't answer for myself, which is, how do you deal with what you think was an experience with God? How would you deal with that?
Are you talking about the experience you had that was a near-death experience that you described earlier?
No.
Something
talking about
else?
Experiences where it felt like, miraculous events happening.
I guess in my mind, I'm wondering how would I determine it's a supernatural cause?
And the way I do that is, like, if I were to tell the experience to anyone, they would consider me a liar or a lunatic. So that's how I consider it as a supernatural experience.
So it's something strange that happens that other people find difficult to believe, and that to you makes it true that this is a supernatural experience?
Yes.
Is it possible that it's not a supernatural experience and people find it hard to believe anyway? Like maybe it's a rare experience that they're not familiar with?
I didn't think of that.
But do you think that that's possible?
It might be.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what happened. And I can give you an example of something interesting that I saw just the other night. I had somebody send me a link to a thread where someone was describing a haunting for their apartment. And I went through the entire thread, and there wasn't really anything that I thought was supernatural. And even at one point, the gentleman who was posting the information had written that individually, none of these things really were convincing, but that altogether it was kind of freaking him out a little bit. But there was one video that he posted of like a rocking chair rocking by itself and something falling off a wall that was adjacent, actually touching a corner. So they were cornered. Something fell off one wall, and the other wall that was on the other corner, right in that same corner, there was a rocking chair that rocked on a separate occasion. They were near in time, but not at the same time. And one of the things I had wondered when I watched it, I thought, well, that's very interesting. Now, if I had, pet cam and I saw my rocking chair rocking like that, what kinds of things would I think? Like, what would I attribute it to, or what might cause a thing like that? He said he had all his windows closed because he was gone for 2 weeks out of the country. And one of the things I thought was, what if there was heavy construction happening? And this is or is not, I don't know, but he was up on an upper floor. He wasn't on a bottom floor. And I thought maybe the building is moving because there's heavy construction, or maybe there's a neighbor doing renovations and against that same wall. Or, it could, I don't know what caused the rocking chair to rock, and I don't know what would make the thing fall off the wall. But assuming that the gentleman, being generous and assuming that he's being honest and what he posted was in fact just his empty apartment with his pet cam running, my thoughts were, is this really a demonstration of a haunting as opposed to just something that could be naturally occurring that we're just not thinking of? And I think that there could be explanations to account for things like this, but the fact that we aren't aware of those explanations, I don't think makes them supernatural, although I do believe that it is uncomfortable when we're in a situation where we don't know what did cause something, and it's an odd story, and other people are, like you say, looking at us like there's something wrong with us because we're saying this is what happened. Another option would be that, and please don't take this the wrong way, but there could be something wrong. I mean, there are times when we sometimes are seeing things and experiencing things, and it's not impossible for a very sane person to have momentary lapses where they have breaks with normal perception, right? So a sane person can actually see things that aren't there or hear things that aren't there.
That was one of the angles that I thought of that, could be possible, and I thought, well, which belief would be scarier, that there is a God that doesn't like me, or that I have episodes of psychosis?
I mean, just to put your mind at ease, we all have episodes of psychosis. I mean, that's not something that, if you go through life and you never have an auditory or a visual hallucination or a tactile hallucination of any kind, you're a rare individual. Most of us have that. I feel like I'm cutting you out of the conversation. John, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I was thinking it's part of it's kind of a mindset. Like if I see something weird happen, I'll say, oh, that was kind of weird. But my mind doesn't immediately go to supernatural. My mind goes to natural because I'm a materialist, and in my experience, things have natural explanations. So I would think of every possibility that could naturally occur first, until, and it's pretty hard to rule out any possible natural explanation. So sometimes I'll just leave it at that was weird and not really have an answer.
Yeah.
But some people are the opposite. And they'll say supernatural is kind of where they first go to. That was weird. It must be supernatural. So part of it is just kind of how you approach the world.
When I Googled for what would make an empty rocking chair rock, and I was typing in physics and things that I thought would get me, I got so much ghost stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it was all ghost stuff. So apparently just ghosts make that happen. But you know what I'm saying? People do tend to go there. I understand. We're sort of there are some cultures, for example, that don't believe in ghosts. So you wonder when they see something move that shouldn't be moving by itself, how do they explain it, right? To them, it's something different. They have other superstitions, of course, that they might be going to, like it's a witch bewitched the object or something. But for cultures that don't believe in ghosts, you wonder what would they say about a rocking chair rocking by itself? I'm sorry that doesn't answer your question. I mean, I can't tell you how to think about it. I would personally think about it in terms of what could cause this, and then if I couldn't think of anything, I would probably just say I don't know what caused this. And if it was something that was occurring with a frequency or an intensity that caused me difficulties in some way, I would probably seek professional help just to rule out that there's something going on with me. But if this is something that was like a one-off, it might just be a one-off.
I mean, the whole thing is that it wasn't a one-off, but I don't know. I kind of lost my notes, so I guess I just have to move on to my second question, but I'm not sure if you're the right person.
Did you say that this is not a one-off?
No, it's not a one-off.
You might want to just rule out that there's something going on with you. It wouldn't hurt just to make a call and make an appointment and just say, hey, I've been having an odd experience and I just want to make sure that I'm okay. You know what I mean? Even a therapist. It doesn't have to be something intense like a psychiatrist or whatever. I'm just saying that you might just talk to a family therapist, for example. Call up an LMFT, somebody with those credentials, and just look for someone in your area that might be able to make an hour appointment with you and go in and talk to them and just say, here's what's been happening with me, and I just don't know if I need to see somebody about this or if this is normal or it sounds okay. I would definitely, if I was having repeated experiences that were concerning me, I would probably just want to rule that out. Just like if you were having a pain that you couldn't explain, I would say, hey, maybe go to the doctor if this keeps hurting, and just make sure nothing's really wrong. You know what I mean?
I mean, that seems like something scary too. I mean, but I guess I'll just move on to my second question.
Okay.
Do you have a background where you come from a Jewish family?
I don't.
No.
We do have Russell had a secular Jewish upbringing, but neither of us have that. So I don't know if we're helpful for this next question or not. But you're welcome to throw it out there.
I was going to ask, why would an atheist still identify as a Jew?
There are many cultural Jews. Is that what you're asking? There are a lot of Jewish people who do identify as atheists, but consider themselves Jews in the sense of a cultural context.
That would be a good question to ask when Russell's on next.
But he's an example, I guess, of a secular Jewish person.
Yeah, just that they identify as Jewish because of their culture and their heritage, and not so much the religious aspect of that.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I was kind of wondering, like, why would you keep the label? Because it could so easily be confused with people thinking that there's religious context behind it.
There are certain religions that are extremely cultural in their context, and for them, a lot of times people keep that label even if they're secular, and believe it or not, there are secular Catholics. Mm-hmm. There are people who their families are just so ingrained in Catholicism that even when they separate for secular reasons, you just can't get away from the culture of it. And so they just sort of, I'm an atheist, but my whole family's Catholic and we're Catholics. They just don't separate it as, they don't really separate the religion from the culture of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I should just let you get on the other callers. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, and good luck to you. I hope this, starts to make better sense for you. But just know that there's people out there that are happy to hear your story without judgment and to listen to you and help you if that's needed. There's definitely resources if you decide to go that route. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Goodbye.
All right, so who we got next? Let's go for... Oh, I thought I had one that it looks like maybe they're not on anymore, but I had one that I thought was really good. We'll go to Fermin. So, hi, Fermin. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. How about you?
We're doing well, I think.
Yeah.
Hi, I had a question. I've been going through a lot in life, and this is part of my question.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I was an atheist. I started at a young age, like age 15 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped believing in the Bible and stuff like that because I was listening to people always talk about where some of these stories come from. And then later on, I started listening to videos to Aaron, which he brings history of the Bible and where the stories come from. But anyways, my question would be is, what is the point of atheism? I have a hard time trying to understand it.
I mean, I can give a quick answer, and then John can give whatever his answer is.
Okay.
To me, it's not so much that there's a point to it as it's just simply what I am. I don't know that there's a point to atheism. It's like saying, is there a point to me being a brunette?
Well, I always assumed that atheism was another way of trying to teach people that religion was wrong, and I don't know, I felt like a big jerk about it, always telling that to people.
You were telling people this? I mean, that's okay. I'm just asking, did I hear you right that you were telling people that atheism was about telling other people that religion is wrong?
Well, that's what I assumed because there really is no way of following how to practice atheism, I guess.
Well, right. There's no
like
practicing atheism. It's just simply not believing that a God exists, correct?
Yeah, it's not a practice. It's not a set of beliefs or an attitude or a way of living. It's just, I don't believe in a God.
I mean, I'm going to say that I'm glad that you're not telling people that anymore. but I will.
I'm not, but
I will
felt
also
like a
say
jerk
that
when I was.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think that it's fine to, if people have beliefs, for example, that they're handing to you, and you aren't interested in having those beliefs handed to you, and you ask them about it and you challenge them, I think that's perfectly fair. Anyone that's willing to talk, or like we do with this show, right? We open the phone lines, and anyone who wants to talk about it can call us up and talk about it. It's an open invitation, but people don't have to call us. They can if they want to. In your case, though, you're saying that you didn't believe, and you had these ideas about atheism, which are kind of negative, and some people do. I mean, we do. Part of the reason for the show is that there's a big gap where there's a lot of information about religion out there, right? So we have a lot of channels, TV channels that talk about religion. We have a lot of radio stations and gospel music and stuff that talks about religion. And then where I live,
I agree with you on that.
Well, here in Texas, for example, there are billboards that are about, invitationals to church. And then we also, where I live, I can literally walk to about 5 churches just from my house, different denominations. So there's a lot of not just Christian voice, but religious voice that's out there. And so this show was started because there really isn't a mechanism like that for atheism, right? I mean, if you're online and you're in the atheist community, you're exposed to a lot more of atheist voice than there used to be. But for a long time in the public square, the atheist voice was silenced because people didn't speak up. And even today, when there's so many more people speaking up, you still have a lot of people that are scared to say that they're atheists for different reasons. We have euphemisms for it that people will use. We also have situations where people say they would take backlash from their communities, backlash from their families. So they're afraid to say anything about their lack of belief in a God. And then what happens is, a lot of times churches will get up. Not all churches do this, but there are churches who get up and then they malign us and they demean us. They tell people misconceptions and disinformation about atheism. And then people, before they even meet us, they have these really bad ideas about what we represent. And the fact is, each individual atheist is representing for themselves. And some of us are going to be nice people, and some of us are going to be assholes. And it's just a situation where we're just people.
But I don't know, like, I looked at atheism the same way you're talking about it, and also how people were always antagonizing me because they wanted me to give them proof, and I would try to tell them some of the websites that I go to. At the same time, I guess it would be to. Oh man, I just lost my
It's okay.
thought right now.
Take a minute.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I guess here, I'll just move on to another question.
Okay.
Do you fear death by any chance?
I don't think I fear it. I mean, it's not like I'm looking forward to it, but I don't. I fear dying more than I fear death. Death doesn't really frighten me. I hope that my mode of death is not horrific.
Yeah, I don't want to be in a lot of pain or suffer, but the idea of just not being here anymore is kind of like, well, did I fear before I was born? Did I fear that? Well, no, it's it was nothingness then. So
yeah, I fear the dying process, more than I fear death. Does that make sense?
It does, because even right now I'm fearing it a lot because of what happened to me recently with my coworker. I had a strong mental barrier, but it went down as soon as she started making some points, and then from there I just started to think, oh my God, I need to believe in something then because it's destroying my brain, destroying my mind. Something's going wrong with me. And of course, like I said, I'm not a religious person. I believe there is a being out there, but I try to look at it in an atheist way and how I used to handle it, but it's not working lately.
What is it that scares you? Like, what is it that scares you about it?
The nothingness after death, that the person you love, the person you see, the people you have met, you won't see at all.
Well, don't you think that you could also work on perhaps altering that perspective to one of saying, because my time is limited here, I really need to focus on what happens while I'm here because I'm not going to have forever?
I have been doing that now.
That's good. Don't you think that's a good thing?
It is, because it makes me feel much better, but for some reason I'm kind of using the word of like saying God and stuff like that to people because I've been meeting a lot of people lately that are in pain also. But I feel like a hypocrite also because I'm like, I was once atheist. How am I even preaching this?
Well, I guess I'm wondering, so I understand what you're saying about you have a fear of death, right? So it wouldn't even matter if it was death. Something is scaring you, and it's like a reality that you're not going to escape. And then there's this idea of a comforting concept that says you die, but it's just a transition to eternal life, which to you, you're saying, this is very comforting to me.
It is comforting, but kind of boring at the same time.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sorry, not to be negative on that.
No, I think there's people
who
have explored the concept of the boringness of eternity. But I guess, do you actually believe that it's true that after death you're going to go on forever? Or are you simply saying that you kind of hope that you're wrong about death being finite and that you will go on forever?
I don't know. Like, as an atheist or once atheist, I used to say, well, it's just the end. That's it. Nothing else is there.
Did it freak you out then?
At first it didn't, because it was more comforting than having to listen to biblical stories of the Bible and how these did happen back then. But now, as I'm older, it does frighten me. Okay.
I don't know, John, do you have...
And that's why I was always wondering, what was the whole entire point of me learning atheism then?
Well, I think, to me, the point of what you would do with your life is with your life. I mean, the point to my life isn't my death, right? The point to my life is my life, and I need to get on with it, because after when it ends, it ends. And so the time that I'm here becomes something that I really need to focus on as far as understanding that this is it. This is the party. So it's like, I remember Matt used to use an example of, I guess, a good meal. But let's say you went to a party, right? And you're looking forward to this party. You come to the party, and the party is awesome, and you know the party's going to end. Do you sit there during the whole party just moping and being sad and saying, I'm so upset that this party's not going to go on forever? Or do you enjoy the party?
I guess I would enjoy the party.
Even though you know it's going to end?
Yeah.
That's, I guess, what I'm saying.
Well, and either way, if you make the most out of your life that you're living, no matter what happens when you die, you will have led the best life that you could live now. Mm-hmm. And then what happens when you die is going to happen, regardless of what you believe is going to happen.
Right.
It's, so you really don't have any control over that. So yeah, the idea that there might be nothing might be a little daunting, but what's going to happen is going to happen. So it's kind of like
everyone gets their shot. We all get our shot. And you're kind of fortunate because some people don't get much of a shot. There are a lot of people that don't even make it to adulthood, right? So just being able to live a life where you actually hit the point where you now have the option to control your life to a large degree, where you're I'm assuming an independent person, and here you have a life. You have a life. A lot of people don't. Some people are born in situations where they have almost no options, where just surviving day to day is nearly impossible. And here, I just look at it like I feel so full of opportunity with the place that I was born in, the time that I was born in, and the all of the benefits that I was born into. To be able to have this life is just something that I don't think that at this point, having lived as much of it as I have, I don't think I could complain if it were, to even end tomorrow, because I've really had a shot here.
Well, I guess you answered all my questions.
I don't know that I can help you. I can't make you feel better, but I...
No. I wasn't looking to actually feel better, but I was just trying to see if there was like some type of, almost like a similar Bible to the atheist way.
No, it's
just... trying to see what was the concept that I was
part of the benefits of... For me, part of the benefit of leaving religion and becoming an atheist was that I felt like I got my life back, right? I felt like I was able now to make choices for myself and make decisions and actually examine what did I value. Because the religion I was a part of, and I know this isn't every religion, but the religion I was a part of actually taught me that I had to be a certain way, and that if I wasn't, it was awful and sinful and wrong. And so I had to actually suppress myself to keep trying to live up to some model that they had made that wasn't even really amenable to, human reality. And so I spent my time trying to live up to that. And then once I realized that that where I was at was not correct, I was able to then say, well, then what do I value? And what do I want to do with my life? And where do I think my effort and my energy, my resource should be expended? That was such I feel now like I'm living my life, like I'm able to live my life. And I feel like before I was trying to live someone else's life.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure. And good luck with it. I mean, I hope, just keep looking into it. There's a lot of different views, and hopefully you'll find some things that help you make better sense of it and help you resolve the questions that you're asking.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And have a great day, both of you.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so let's go to, we have a couple. I'll go ahead and we'll try Donte. We'll give that a shot here. Hi, Donte. Are you on?
What's up? Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
Hey.
I just real quickly, it says that you want to tell your story, but I wanted to ask because I don't get a sense of, we tend to tell people not to call in just to proselytize. So I just want to make sure, like, you want to tell the story, and then I'm assuming that you can tell a concise enough version of it so that we can then discuss the story a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, wait, before I start, I wanted to talk to the other guy that called first.
Okay.
Nobody's going to believe you. Who cares? Just tell your story. It's going to make you stronger as a person, bro. And all right, so I'm a very pessimistic person, or I used to be. And I went through some shit, and I went to Louisiana to go get a job or whatever. So right now I'm at my grandma's house, and I'm just, pacing. I'm pacing the house thinking about random shit. And then I see that the TV comes on. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't see it come on. I just see that it's on. And I'm like, all right, I don't remember the TV being on. So I turn it off, right? So I'm just pacing around now, still thinking. Then the TV comes on again. So I'm like, okay, what the fuck? Either the TV is broken or the remote is wedged between the pillowcases, right?
Power surges, yeah, lots of things. Go ahead.
Yeah, so then I'm searching, and the TV has a lag when it comes on, right? So I'm searching for the remote, and then it's a commercial. It's a commercial of a chick, and she's like selling college, or she's saying you could go to college or whatever. But that's how the commercial normally goes. So as I'm looking for the remote, the TV's like, hey, you. And I turn around, I'm like, what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, you. And I'm like, okay, I've seen this commercial a shitload of times. It doesn't go like that. So then it goes on to tell me, it's like telling me that I'm being a pussy and shit like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, so the TV's telling me I'm a goddamn pussy. It was like, she's telling me that I'm immortal, that I've been through worse than what I'm going through now, and I need to calm down and shit like that. I'm like, all right, whatever, what the fuck? So I turn off the TV, and as soon as I turn off the TV, the radio comes on, like the dial, it switches, because my grandma keeps it on.
Is there a punchline to this, Donte?
Huh?
Is there a punchline coming?
See, yeah, you're going to think it's a joke, but I have more to it. So the radio turns on, right? And my grandma keeps it on a radio station. Keeps it on, what is that shit called? Oh, she keeps it on country station. And then it changes to a rap station, and then the radio starts talking to me like it's fucking Bumblebee off of fucking Transformers.
Okay.
I know it sounds far-fetched.
No, I'm saying if you're not joking, then I would say joking. Tweaking, or like the other caller, you may be having an episode here.
Nope. No.
What do you mean,
drugs.
no? How do you know no?
No, I'm saying no drugs.
No, but people have psychotic breaks. It happens.
Yeah, I'm trying to like get to that point though. All right, so
you're at that point.
All right, I'm having a psychotic break. Believe it as a story, a joke, or a psychotic break. Okay, so
hearing devices and things talking to you is absolutely. There's a ton of literature about this. You can hear traffic talk to you too. Have you been checked for this? Have you gone to a professional and asked them to just rule out that there's something going on with you? Okay.
This is how this works. All right, when I called you, you already had a certain mindset, right?
Sure.
So being that beliefs are a part of your person, are a part of your being, when your beliefs are attacked, it's no different than your physical being.
I don't consider what you're saying an attack. I think you're telling me something that happened to you, and I have two choices here. I can either believe that you're calling the show to prank us, or I can believe that you're telling the truth. If I believe that you're telling the truth and you're saying that machines are talking to you, I'm simply saying that we have a big body of literature of people who report machines talking to them. This is not unusual, but it is something.
But here's the thing. I'm not a religious person.
It doesn't matter. You don't have to be religious to have a machine talk to you in the way you're describing. It's not about religion. It doesn't just happen to religious people.
All right.
I understand. I'm an existentialist. So, okay, so it changes, and the radio's talking to me like it's Bumblebee, like it's literally physically, the knobs are fucking moving. And then, as soon as my grandma walks in, and my grandma's like, who told you to touch my radio, like all pissed off at me. And I'm just like, now let me tell you, if you want to know what God's like, he's an asshole. He's a dick. He's a manipulative, but there's normally meaning behind his manipulation. And there's been a while people was like, oh, so you're existentialist, so you don't believe in God, blah, blah, blah.
Why would you respond to your grandmother telling you not to touch the radio by attacking God?
But no, I'm not responding to my grandma. I'm just saying people in general. Like, people will be like, so you're existentialist, you don't believe in God or whatever.
So
I'm
your
like, you ever
grandma came in and she said, "Why did you touch the radio?" And you had no memory of touching the radio.
And you started talking. And you started talking about God to your grandma after.
No,
that?
he says he's just telling us that. It's like a segue. You're very disjointed in the story there, Donte.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry.
Well,
Because normally when I tell this story, it's all over the place. Always.
If this happened to me, the first thing I'd do is ask my grandma if she was hearing the same thing.
Yeah. Now that you have another person in there.
No, this is what I mean by God's an asshole. Like, but the thing is, he manipulates you. But the way he manipulates you, he takes you to a certain place. It's because he's trying to show you something. And when I say he's not really a he. He doesn't have like a physical being. It's a he and a she. It's more like a
we're layers and layers above anything we should even be discussing at this point. Like, we have not even discussed the idea of a God existing. We have not. So we're at a point now where we're talking about the nature of a God, and we don't even know that this God is real. And so I need to back it up to a point where I'm not sure that this call is. This may be better. This may be better addressed at the blog, actually, because at the blog you would be able to actually tell the whole story in full. There would be no time limits, and you could get responses and questions that you could then answer. And you could also stop and kind of think about how you want to frame this story and how you want to tell this story in a way that is more cohesive. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to make you feel disrespected or like dismissed.
Oh, I'm not disrespected.
Okay, and so I'm gonna just say, why don't you kind of write this thing up in a way that you think makes a kind of coherent chronological timeline of it, so that the story then makes a little more sense, and then post that to our blog.
All right. Well, can I? All right. Can I like? Go on just a little further.
We'll give you another minute. Go. You got one more minute.
Okay, so now I'm working. I'm telling everybody about my story at my job, and everybody's like, what kind of drugs are you on? Like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck's your problem? And shit like that. So I'm like, drugs? There's a drug that can make this happen? Like, what the fuck? Okay. So they're telling me I'm on shrooms and shit like that. So, okay, let's move down along. Like, a few months later, now I'm back in Texas. And I have a friend, so I asked him, could he give me some shrooms? And he's like, no. And then me and my parents get into a fight about some shit. I'm like, they're like, money is what makes the world go round. And I'm like, no, love is what makes the world go round. Because if it was all about money, we would all hate each other and we would all destroy each other. And then I end up, yelling at each other. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go to my friend's house. I walk to my friend's house, and and then he lets me in, and then I'm like digging in my ear, like, and he's asleep on his bed. I'm digging in my ear's hurting like really bad, and then the commercial comes on, and it's like, remember, keep your fingers out your ear. It's like a show called Uncle Grandpa, and I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, so I dismissed it like as a coincidence. So I go to sleep, and I end up having a seizure, and I'm like seizing out, and I'm like grabbing my friend's bed, and I'm like, bro, like help me, like please help me, and then I end up in a dream. And then in the dream, I was talking to this.
All right, Donte, look, I'm going to have to cut this off, but I do want to ask you just one thing. Do you ever have episodes of depression?
Oh, manic. Yeah, my parents talk about that too. But
did you just say manic?
The dreams coming true.
Did you just say
the
manic?
Dreams coming true. No, this is what I hear from people.
Okay, because
I hear.
Right now you sound a little manic, and I really would encourage you to go and talk to, just like I said, just a therapist. LMFT.
I talk to a therapist.
That's good, and I would talk to them again. I would just say, hey.
I don't talk to them now. I'm just saying I have talked to them, but it's like, it gets to a point where they start questioning their own lives, like a Harley Quinn and the Joker situation,
All right, Donte, I need to let you go.
Yeah,
but I wish you well, and
go see a doctor, because you're hallucinating. If you're being
dreams coming true.
He's not trying to mock you, Donte. Yeah, no. I mean, we're very concerned, I think, honestly.
No, what about the dreams coming true, though?
Well, people dream a lot of things.
Like
Many things happen in life. So every now and then a dream will coincide with what really happens.
Four dreams in one night, and all of them.
When I was in high school, I
back-to-back.
had several, and it's just there are things that happen, and especially depending on what you're dreaming, it depends on what's going on in reality.
Well, and if you're having experiences like the radio's talking to you and things like that, if I was in that position, I wouldn't know when I was dreaming and when I wasn't.
Yeah.
The line between
this wasn't a dream.
Okay,
Okay,
we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go.
Consciousness is separate from the body.
No,
No.
I don't personally agree with that.
So,
Donte,
hold
we
on,
need to
hold on.
let you go. I want to
saying
let
that
you
the
go with
consciousness-
respect, but if I have to cut you off, I will. So we're going to say goodbye. Visit the blog if you have time. Okay?
This is the last one.
All right.
Thanks, Dante.
Okay, so now we will check with... This is David in Barcelona. Hi, David.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking my call. And
Sure.
let me begin by saying that I hope you guys and your families are okay with the flooding that's going on there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I kind of doing some research in the scientific, in physics and things like that, about that the idea of an existence of a God may be plausible. And before I get to the reasons why that may be, if I could ask you a question, if I were to create a world like Minecraft or something, and in this world, I, as the programmer or developer, had absolute control over everything that went on there and could, create things at will, would you consider me to be some sort of a god in that world, in that virtual world?
Do you consider the creator of Minecraft a god?
Well, no, but I'm just saying in that
Then
world,
why would you think that I would?
I think he means to the people in the Minecraft universe.
Correct. That's
I
right.
think that if you were to identify a personality that created the universe, that a lot of people, including myself, would say, this may be the God that so many people were talking about. So I will definitely grant you that. If you could demonstrate something like that, I would at least say, this is fitting the description of many people's stories about God.
Well, I'm just to lead up to my point, but would you concede to the point that to that universe, in the Minecraft universe, that I would be a godlike entity?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
given that there's a
Well,
lot of
the
different
reason that
concepts of God,
Okay, and
that's something
the
that could be
reason why I bring
described.
that up is because physics, kind of the latest thing, is that there is a lot of evidence, and it's almost to the point where it's now like it can't be denied anymore, and that is that the universe is a simulation running on a gigantic.
Before you go on,
quantum
let me just
computer.
ask, because have you, well, first of all, is it the consensus of physics that they have demonstrated the existence of a God?
Well, no, not the existence of a God. However,
Okay,
they
like,
have
I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. So we would agree
Yes.
that according to physics, there is not any compelling evidence that physicists as a field accept as compelling evidence for the existence of a God.
Well, physics are not saying that, the physics is that, there's a God. However, the developments in physics, and I can list about 4 points that you can maybe take a look at, that suggest that the universe is actually a simulation running in a giant quantum computer. And
If this is not evidence for the existence of a God, why are you calling an atheist show to discuss it instead of talking to
well, I'm saying
physicists?
that this could potentially be the plausible evidence for a God, and that is
Then
the
why don't
entity
physicists
that's set
accept
up-
it as plausible evidence for the existence of a God?
Well, because there's still research to be done.
Okay, so then
And-
right now this is not evidence that is considered compelling evidence for the existence of a God. It's just some
Well, I'm
research
saying
that's
that it's
ongoing in
evidence-
some branches of physics.
Plausible that makes the idea of a God existing at least plausible.
But this is not the consensus of the people in the field who are doing the research.
While there is some consensus about what quantum theory now is trying to do, what the unifying field equation actually is the equation of unified consciousness.
I guess what I'm wondering is why an atheist show? Like, why not? Have you talked to, for example, a Department of Physics about this? Anybody at a Department of Physics? Like, for example, I once read the Icelandic sagas, and I had this question because something I read in the stories didn't make any sense to me. Like, their society seemed to be in conflict on particular core ideals. And so I went online and I Googled for the information, and I found a Department of Icelandic Studies at a university, and there was a professor that dealt with Icelandic history, and I wrote to them and I said, hey, I'm looking at this stuff, I've read the sagas, I'm seeing this discrepancy in how their society views these couple of things. Can you help me understand it? Like, what would be the explanation for this?
Look,
and they wrote me back and explained it. And so what I'm wondering is, have you actually gone through vetting your concepts here with physicists?
Well, I think I understand the physics, and I can give you
I
a
understood
couple
the
points
sagas.
of the evidence.
I understood the sagas. I did not understand them. I just didn't think that there was something there that was missing, though, that I didn't have.
Let me give you a couple of points that suggest at least that we're a simulation running on a quantum computer. And then from there...
I'm not a physicist. I can't vet this information. What is the point of telling me the information when I can't vet it? I'm not a physicist. I don't know how to process the information, and the people who do will let me know when it means there's a God.
Well, you're also not an astronomer, yet you still believe that the Earth revolves around the sun, correct?
I do, because I've seen sufficient evidence to convince me of that.
Exactly.
However, quantum physics is a little different than watching the Earth go around the sun.
I'm not going to mention quantum physics or equations. Let me mention just a few things that is very easy to comprehend.
You're not a physicist, I'm not a physicist, and we don't have a physicist here to discuss this, and I don't understand what the point is if we're both in agreement that physicists aren't saying that this demonstrates the existence of a God, then I don't know what the point is. Why don't we just let the physicists do the research, and when they reach a point where they say, holy cow, there's a God, then we'll have it resolved? Why do we have to make judgments about it before it's actually vetted?
To be honest, it sounds like you just don't want me to say these things because they may challenge your beliefs.
It's not about challenging my beliefs. I'm saying that if I'm not expert enough to vet this information,
we can't evaluate
I can't even
what you tell
respond
us.
to it. You're going to claim something. I have no idea that, because I have not read it and I am not sufficiently expert to vet this. But the people who are, you admit, are not saying it is anything conclusive.
If I claim that it takes 200 years for Pluto to revolve around the Earth once, are you going to say we can't talk about that because we don't have an astronomer here?
What I'm saying is that if you do, what I'm pointing out is that if you do say it, there's no value to it because I don't know. And if you aren't in a position to really know either, or maybe you do know, but I don't know. So you're telling me this and I don't know. How would the information about Pluto challenge me when I don't even know how to confirm it, right? Like, I have a computer here, I could Google, but if you're just saying in terms of you telling me
everything that I say. And, it's just, you're not even letting me make a couple short points when the previous
because they're
caller,
irrelevant. Your points are irrelevant. Your points are irrelevant. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. You can make the points. Make the points. Make your points.
My points are irrelevant, but you're not letting
they
me
are.
say my
But you go ahead and make them, and then I'll show you why they're irrelevant.
Okay. The first point that suggests that the universe is a simulation is that pixelation has been discovered in the space-time continuation.
Means nothing to me. Means nothing to me. Can't vet it. Don't know what the implications are. Not a physicist. Next point.
The next point is, have you ever heard of something called the double-slit experiment?
Yes.
Okay. The double-slit experiment suggests that the universe behaves in different ways depending on whether conscious entities are observing it.
Actually, it has to do with the equipment that's used to observe it, is my understanding.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be a conscious entity.
Yeah, it's just about you have to use equipment that is
it
intrusive.
It has nothing to do with the equipment. In fact,
okay, and this is the point that I'm trying to make. I have heard one thing about it. You're telling me something else. I'm not a physicist. I can't vet it. I don't know. It means nothing. Next point.
The next point is something called spooky action at a distance. Have you ever heard of that, either of you?
Nope.
No.
Okay. All right, well, I guess since I'm not, rambling on about, TVs talking to me and radios talking to me.
Can I put you on, can you hear the show when you're on hold? Like, do you have the capacity to hear the show when you're on hold?
Yeah, I heard the other caller rambling on for about,
I have been given a message from the studio that says that I have a caller on line 6 who is dying to respond to you. Can I just put you on hold, let this person talk for just a minute, see what it is that they're dying to say, and then we'll come back to you? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Okay, let me put this call back on hold. And then I'm going to go to 6. And we have Dennis on 6, is that correct?
Hey, Tracie, that's correct.
Oh, okay, so now they're telling me that both are on the air. So I have both David and Dennis on the air. David is the proponent of physics making a plausible argument for God, and Dennis says he has something to say. And Dennis, you're in Frankfurt, Germany.
Correct. So now I have to rethink what I wanted to tell you, because what David just said made it really hard for me to bring my point across. Also, I'm not a native English speaker, so I'm in favor also for the simulation argument. I was born and grown up an atheist, and all the stuff that David just said about the physicists and all the stuff that is being discovered recently, very recently, is nothing but accurate from what I know so far. And
so, Dennis, do you have credentials to go with your opinion?
I don't. The only credentials I have is the research I've done online and the shows I've watched. The points that David brought up earlier that he couldn't bring across properly, from what I've heard, are points that are communicated by well-known physicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson. You guys know Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yes.
Yeah, but he doesn't believe in a God.
Of course not. But do you think he's credible as a physicist or as a scientist?
I assume so, yeah.
So about a year ago, there was Isaac Asimov's memorial debates.
Okay.
Neil deGrasse Tyson and all the panelists were in favor of the theory that the universe is actually a simulation. If you guys haven't watched this debate, you should do that, because the points they brought up are... I'm not a credible person on this point. I'm not knowledge on the subject, but what these guys said is actually exactly what David said, just a few minutes ago. Maybe we can ask David if he watched this debate also.
David's on the line, I'm told. I think.
Can you hear us still, David, or can you?
Can I speak at the same time?
We can hear you apparently. Yeah.
You're both on.
Yes. No, I have not seen that particular debate. This is just because I am a physics enthusiast. This is from the stuff that I read, from the research that I have done personally. The physics does not say that this proves there is a God. I am just making the statement that if we are indeed in a simulated universe, which the evidence seems to suggest, then the question can be asked, well, who or what is running the simulation and why? And if there is an entity that has set up the simulation, it could be said that that entity is a God. Now, whether that God deserves worship or cares what we do, or it could be some dick god that's just, having a laugh at the different religions killing each other and all.
And I guess I'm still sitting here saying, what am I supposed to do with this?
Because if it isn't
that's not important. Tracie, I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but it's not important what you are going to do with this. This is something that actually credible physicists found out, and what they are actually believing. They don't believe in it, but they suggest that this may be something that we haven't discovered yet, because we haven't had the technological advancement that brought us to a point where we can actually say, okay, there may be something like a simulated universe. We haven't had computers 100 years ago, so we couldn't came up with an idea of a simulated universe. So now there are credible, worldwide known physicists that think that there's an actual possibility of the universe being simulated. I'm not saying that I believe in it.
So what we have, what I'm hearing is, we have physicists who are saying that maybe it's a simulation, and we can't demonstrate that yet. Is that about right?
Well, we
not
have.
Exactly.
It's not.
What they say it is actually demonstratable. There is actually evidence that the universe may be a simulation.
Right, but if it's demonstrable that it may be, then that means it's not demonstrable that it is.
Tracie, wait. If we want to have a debate or discussion on the
I
subject,
don't, but apparently people think I should, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just asking.
I think you're just trying to be on the one side of this debate to be, okay, there is no God and whatever we say. I'm an atheist too. I watched all you guys' show. I love you guys, all of you. But maybe to have a fruitful discussion, we should keep our minds open to things that we didn't know before. And yes, I have a hard time explaining
I'm not
myself.
closed-minded. I'm simply saying that when they come to some conclusions about God, it would then be relevant to me as an atheist. How is that closed-minded?
Don't get me wrong, but I think you are a bit closed-minded on this topic. You are.
I'm not even saying that. I'm not even saying. I've never even yet said David is wrong. I've simply said that this is not a field about which I am expert, and I, frankly, am not interested in this field. But what I would be interested in would be any findings that affect my beliefs. But these findings don't affect my beliefs. So I don't understand the relevance of them to me.
How does these findings not affect your belief if you haven't even gone into research about those things? I mean, what I'm hearing now...
You could say this about any field of study. Are you well vetted in every single field of study, or do you just study things that interest you and affect you?
But Tracie, that's kind of an appeal to the argument of if you're not an expert, you have no right to have an opinion.
That is not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you're not an expert and I'm not an expert and you're calling to tell me about it, all I can do is say, okay, well then you've said what you said and okay.
So that's interesting, but
I don't know what to do with it.
But also what I'm hearing from my layman's knowledge, is that the simulation theory may indicate that the universe is a simulation, but then there's this big leap, and then magic happens, and then there's a God doing it.
And neither of them is actually making the claim that this demonstrates a God, and one of them is saying...
No one said this. There was...
Right.
Nobody says that this is a magical God, but the person or the entity that creates the simulation would have God-like powers and would, for all intents and purposes...
Well, David,
how do you know a person?
1 second.
How do you know a person is controlling the simulation?
1 second, please, David. Can you just take God out of the equation? Because the moment you bring God in as the one that created the simulation, this is nothing. This is too much way out of what we're talking about, and this is why this discussion gets like so much off the road.
Look,
just keep God out of the equation. Let's stick with the simulation, okay? Don't talk about God. Let's stick with the simulation.
Okay, but look, when I say God, I'm not talking about the magical sky spirit here. This could be a kid in the basement or some entity who's living in his mother's basement who's got a quantum computer under his desk.
I understand, but how do you know an entity is controlling this at all?
Well, I'm just saying that it is. I'm just saying that it is plausible. If it is a simulation, which the evidence points to, it would seem that there would be an entity that is responsible for setting up and running the simulation, and therefore that entity would have godlike powers in our universe and could be considered a godlike being or God.
And if there's not an entity controlling it, then there isn't, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, then that would, raise the questions of how did the simulation get started, and that raises a whole different set of questions.
Because we used to do the same. Yeah, we used to have the same ideas about evolution, and we had the same ideas about the existence of all kinds of
and
things.
the Big Bang. And,
it was like, well, if people exist, then there has to be a God that created them. If there's this simulation, there would have to be this God or entity or whatever you want to plug in that created it. And I mean, in the end, I'm looking at it, and it's like, if y'all want to talk about it, we'll give you a few minutes. You can talk about it. I don't see the relevance of it, but maybe others do.
I don't think it will be fruitful now, but maybe you guys want to dig into this topic, and maybe you can bring this topic up for the next show next Sunday.
I think this would be a good thing to put on the blog too. I think because
maybe David and I can call again, and if you guys maybe just watch this one debate. Isaac Asimov Memorial, and I only know Neil deGrasse Tyson was the host. Just watch it. And maybe next week, if you think it's relevant, you can bring it up again. And maybe
here's what I'm saying, though. Let's say that I say, okay, you go through your stuff, and I am convinced, and I say, wow, that's really amazing. The universe operates.
I'm not convincing you. I'm not convinced.
And that's fine. But I'm saying, what if at the end? Right. But what I'm saying is, at the end of this, even if I am completely convinced that the universe operates like a simulation, now what?
Look, I'm not the Pope of simulation theory, and I'm not trying to convince you.
But I'm trying to figure out the relevance of the discussion.
And maybe if you were open-minded, as you claimed just a minute before, and don't get me wrong, I'm not insulting you or anything, but if you're as open-minded as you just claimed, maybe you want to take your time in the next 7 days and just watch this one debate. It's like 1.5 hours. And if you think it's relevant, and if you think it's interesting, you can bring it up on the next show, and maybe we can call again, and you can put us up on the air again, and we can talk about it again.
What the irony of this is not lost on me, because, okay, David, I get, just for a moment, like with Dennis, what I really don't get is that you seem even more of the opinion that, whoa, putting this into a realm where we even are naming a God here, or, trying to frame this in any way at all with a God or something, is way too much.
Going too far, yeah.
And so I'm looking at it as an atheist show host, and I'm saying, then let's say that I go and I spend all this time reading about it, and then I come to that conclusion myself, and I say, wow, there's this simulation theory, it's very interesting, it's very compelling, but it doesn't get us to a God. And so now I'm an atheist host who has read up and understand this view, and I'm not rejecting it. What I'm saying is I don't understand the value or the relevance to my life as an atheist.
It has pretty much relevance to your life because, well, let me think about it. David, you have to say something while I think about what I want to reply?
No, I've got nothing more at this point, so I will just at this point say thanks for the call and Auf Wiedersehen. Take care.
All right.
Okay, David, I'm interested. I'm interested. Hang on. I'm interested enough that I'd like you mentioned 3 points that we didn't have any idea what you're talking about. If you could write those down and post them to the blog, I think a lot of the people who read the blog would be interested as well. And this isn't the physics experience, but
we don't need to write those points down. They're openly available in the internet. There's a big discussion about it.
Feel free to post the link. All we're saying is there's a show thread.
One thing.
Why do I need to post a link? You guys can just Google simulation theory and you'll get all the information you need.
Because a lot of people aren't necessarily, okay, they can do it.
A lot of people are not able to Google it.
Okay, they can do it. That's fine.
I'll recommend one thing also. Since you've already heard of the double slit experiment, look up the double slit time eraser variant of the double slit quantum eraser.
Right? Okay. You're perverting this. No, okay. Whatever.
That's why it's time to go. All right, thanks, everyone.
All right,
thank you.
There's I apologize to viewers if they see relevance to this that I don't see. I hate to be the one who is just like, putting the hammer down on stuff that maybe other people see some value to it, and I don't,
But that's your job. You're an
Okay, but there's other hosts that may actually, it looks like we lost both of those, but there may be other hosts that might be more interested in this. I can't speak for everybody that's going to handle the callers.
There's a lot of stuff in physics that's interesting and weird, and I read some of it, and I'm not a physicist, and I go, wow, that's interesting, but that's about as far as it goes usually.
I'm going to ask that the studio hold off on more calls because we're getting towards 6 o'clock, and we already have some good lines going on. So let's, if it looks like we're maybe screening one, and if that's the case, go ahead and screen that one, and I'll see what I can do with these other callers. But yeah, again, I just want to invite, if people are interested in this topic, and especially I think it was David who brought the topic up, we do have a show thread at the blog. You're welcome to go and post those ideas, and then all the other viewers can see it, and that can spawn discussion with people who are maybe more interested in the topic. I'm going to just reject that I'm closed-minded, because it's not that I reject that it could be true. It's that even if I accept that it's true, I don't understand the relevance. So I reject that the label closed-minded. I would say disinterested.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody would have more interest or be able to convince me that there's some reason that it does have relevance to me or my beliefs, but I don't see that right now.
And there are physicists who read the blog and contribute regularly, and there are people who would be able to vet this information and say, yeah, but, or and, or here's the caveat or whatever, and we just can't.
Yeah, and I did not mean to imply that David must necessarily be wrong because he's not a physicist. I was simply saying that you're not a physicist, I'm not a physicist, you tell me this, and I have no idea. So I don't know what the point is, but if we're not getting to a God somehow, then I really don't know what the point is. And so let me go through and see. We've got another one here for this line, and this is going to be Eddie in Virginia.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Eddie.
Hey, what's up?
How you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty
How
good.
are you?
How are you?
Good. I'm a first-time caller, and actually I've never called a radio station or TV station or anything like that, so forgive me if I sound a little nervous.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, I do have two topics to talk about. The first one, I want to know you guys' opinion on deja vu, and does that have any relevance as far as, not God, but just, anything in the spiritual realm or mystical realm or anything like that? And have you guys actually discussed that in the past?
I've experienced deja vu. I never thought about it being related to anything other than just like brain activity.
Yeah.
Is there some
Okay,
reason
and,
that you think that it wouldn't be something that a brain could just do?
Well, from my personal experience and, mainly in my youth, it happened to me all the time. I'd say, once, twice a week. But mainly in my youth, as I got older, it doesn't happen as
frequently.
As frequently. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Me too, by the way.
But let me describe it a bit, in my youth,
Sure.
From my experience, I would be somewhere, and all of a sudden, my body would start, getting like shaky. I get tingles, and then all of a sudden I would just pay attention, and then for about, I'd say 5 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, somebody would say something, everything would be on cue. It's just, it was almost scripted.
Okay, so hold on just a moment. Let me make sure I understand what you're describing. So you would have these tactile sensations, and then do I understand the connection is that you would then have an incident of deja vu? Because you didn't quite say that, but I'm inferring that. Okay, so then you have the deja vu experience. So here's my thing. Let's say that a human brain does somehow generate the experience of deja vu. Like your brain can trip up and you suddenly are like, whoa, I had this weird feeling of memory of this event that just happened that has never happened to me before, right? I mean, that's pretty much deja vu, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
and then let's say that this is something that a brain generates, and that in some people, that experience comes with further neurological excitement that causes tactile stimulation as well.
What kind of stimulation?
Just tactile, meaning you have feelings with it, other feelings, not just emotions, but like, physical stimulation that comes along with that. Now, I'm not saying that occurs. I'm just saying if a brain is causing it, couldn't a brain also cause physical stimuli? Like some people have ghost pains and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from that standpoint, but, I don't know. When I experienced it in my youth, I really didn't think about it. But now, I'm 41 years old now, and I've been looking into it a lot lately. And it's just, those experiences, I think they mean something.
Okay, can you tell me if there was any kind of pattern or something to it that you thought you recognized that had meaning? Like every time I had the sense of deja vu, someone died. I mean, that's pretty dramatic, but
it's when I had the experience, it really, there was no relevance to it. It was just for about 5 seconds, a person would say something that was meaningless,
and you would have deja vu.
Something would tell me to turn around, and then this other person would say something else, and it would be on cue.
What do you mean? What do you mean it would be on cue?
Meaning that that I knew to look a certain direction, or to listen to somebody, or I would see somebody. I don't know. For example, I would see somebody wave at me, and I would recognize it that's
it's familiar,
what was supposed to happen at that. Yeah, it would be so familiar, and as a child, whatever, I thought it was normal, and it is normal. People experience deja vu all the time. Right. But when I think about it now in my, my elderly years, it's just there has to be some kind of explanation other than what you were describing.
Why does there have to be something beyond? It's just a little cognitive thing that our brains does sometimes.
Because it doesn't happen any other time.
What do you mean it doesn't happen I mean, it happens when it happens. It's kind of what we're saying, right?
It does happen when it happens, but,
it doesn't happen any other time than when? I mean, it seems like it happened at random times for you, and it seems like there was no pattern or obvious meaning to it.
Well, the meaning behind it is if I'm for about 5 to 7 seconds of my life, I'm able to kind of almost predict what's going to happen.
I understand.
Then I think that's...
Well, now wait a minute, though. But if you're you may be messing with correlation and causation here, or looking at it in reverse. So have you ever heard the example where it says, my rooster crows every morning before the sun comes up, therefore my rooster crowing causes the sun to come up? Have you ever heard that little quip?
I mean, I see what you mean.
And so the idea of I have this weird tactile thing. Now, I will acknowledge, I'll be the first one to admit that I've never had tactile experiences accompany deja vu. Yeah. But you're saying you have this tactile experience, this tingle that you hit, and then you have this experience of deja vu. And of course, when the nature of deja vu is that when you experience it, it seems like it's supposed to be this way because you feel like you're having a memory. Right? I mean, that's what deja vu is a memory feeling when it's not something you've experienced before. So when you're saying it's on cue because it seems like it's happening like it's supposed to happen, that's sort of what deja vu is. The tingle beforehand, or that warning that you feel like you're getting beforehand, could, for you, just be a kind of weird anomaly to your personal experiences of deja vu.
Yes, because everything around me isn't a weird anomaly. Everything else makes sense,
Sure.
Just, the randomness of life.
Well,
so that's why,
for example,
I've always kind of questioned it.
When I was younger, I used to have sleep paralysis, right? I had it a lot more when I was younger than I do now as an adult, for whatever reasons. I mean, I have some thoughts on that, but the fact is, I had it a lot as a kid. I am pretty sure that I inherited it because my mother had it as well. When she had it, though, she had visual hallucinations with hers. And I remember when I was younger, I used to really be horrified at the thought that mine would one day develop into visual hallucinations because I did not want to see things while I was paralyzed in bed. And I had auditory hallucinations, and that was spooky enough. I would hear footsteps and things in the other room, people messing with my front door, and I would be horrified. The TV coming on, none of it was really happening. It was just like a dream,
The radio talking to you.
No, I'm not going to mock the earlier caller. So, but the point is, I could have tried to attribute something to the fact that she had visual hallucinations. She might say like, well, I have these visuals, but other people don't have them. Or I might say most people have visuals, but I only have these auditory things. So maybe the auditory things are meaningful. But the fact is, it's just different variations on the same theme of sleep paralysis, and the fact that it is like something that happens with the chemistry in your brain, and that it's going to be a little different for people sometimes. And I admit fully that what you're describing with the tactile stimulus is unique.
It's almost like, like somebody calling it a, psychic experience. Now, I hate to use that word, but it is,
You should post.
The way you described it also.
I sound like a broken record sending people to the blog, but you should post this to the blog to see if anybody else ever experienced anything like the tingly sensation or anything like that when they've had deja vu experiences. I would be curious.
Yeah, it almost forces me to pay attention. It forces me. I've always been a kind of person that had a heightened sense of awareness. Okay.
Yeah, some people do. I mean, they're good in certain jobs. Yeah, I had
some people.
Well, here's an example. Like some people have migraine with aura. So before they get a migraine, they have a visual weirdness that sort of clues them into, oh my gosh, I'm about to have a horrible migraine. I'm in a position where I get the aura, I don't get the headache. So I just have like 20 minutes of crazy psychedelic zigzag visuals, and then it just goes away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so but some people, for some folks, like you're saying, for some folks, it preempts a migraine. And so they could say, oh my God, it's like I'm having this warning that I'm going to have a migraine. And it kind of is a warning that you're going to have a migraine, but it's just your brain.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate it. That makes total sense. Now, can I talk about one quick thing?
Yeah, go for it. We have like 3 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you quickly about my background. I was born in a Muslim country, Muslim father, American mother, and turned out that they were both atheists. I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I moved to this country in the mid-'80s. And so, when I came here, I thought, I related as a Muslim. But, through my teenage years to my early to mid-20s, I remained an atheist. And so through some traumatic life experiences, I went through a spiritual phase for about 10 years, okay? Mm-hmm. And through this spiritual phase, I will say it helped me as far as, anxiety goes, depression, what have you. So, I was convinced, the spiritual life was for me, blah, 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 Buddha, all that good stuff. But now here's my point. I was pretty deeply into it until a few months ago. I started listening to you guys' show, and you guys have almost convinced me that I'm an atheist again. Okay? You guys have almost convinced me. Okay. Now, here's where I kind of question some things, or one thing.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you another quick story. About 2 or 3 years ago, I lived with a young lady, and she needed to go to the airport. And I live in Northern Virginia off of I-95, which is a very, very busy highway.
Okay.
And so she asked me to drop her off at the airport, and I was going to drive her car back to the house. And, fine, I dropped her off. On the way back, I'm driving home. It's a lot of traffic, a lot of things going on. And for some reason, I got this overwhelming anxiety, driving back. I don't know, when I went through my spiritual phase, I didn't struggle with the anxiety and depression as much. Okay. I learned how to.
So you're driving back on your own and you're feeling anxious.
So I'm feeling anxious.
Mm-hmm.
So, through spiritual practices, one thing I learned was, if that occurs, take 10 deep breaths.
Okay.
And that doesn't have to be a spiritual practice. I think, that works for anybody.
Sure, like yoga.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm driving, I'm feeling anxious. I start taking the 10 deep breaths. And pretty much after I took my 10th breath, I felt a sense of calmness, and then literally a Jeep cuts me off right in front of me, and on the back of the Jeep, on the steering wheel cover or the spare tire or whatever, there's a smiley face. You know, the life is good smiley face.
Sure.
And literally, the Jeep gets over to the next lane, and another car jumps in front of me, another Jeep or whatever, SUV, and it has another steering wheel cover, and this is crazy. You know, this is where I started questioning things again.
Okay.
It has a decal that says, you know, on the bottom, upside down or whatever, it says, life is hard. And then on top of it, it says, life is what you make it.
Okay.
Now, from a spiritual, you know, awareness or whatever you want to call it, that had a lot, you know, that had a lot of meaning to me at that time.
Sure.
And do you call that coincidence?
Yeah, in fact, that's exactly what a coincidence is. Right? And isn't that what a coincidence is? It's something that happens close in time to which the subject that it's happening to attributes meaning, right? That's a coincidence. Two things that are not causally connected, right? Because, I mean, we would say that if there was some cause to it, we don't see it, right? We wouldn't expect that a smiley face Jeep would pull. That's not something we would have thought was purposefully done. So things that are as far as we know, non-causally related, that happen close in time, that have meaning to the subject that experiences it, isn't that what a coincidence is?
I see what you mean, but the first, if it would have happened with the first Jeep that cut me off literally right after I took the deep breaths, I could see that, but the second car that cut me off.
You're explaining why at that moment in time those things are meaningful to you. I mean, I understand what you're describing. You're saying this is why I attributed meaning. This is what it meant to me. And I think for myself, if it had happened, I probably would have laughed, not laughed at it like laughing at what you're saying, but laughed in the sense of saying like, that's hysterical. It's like someone's trying to tell me something. But I wouldn't have seriously thought someone was trying to tell me something. Like I would have just said, that's really funny that those two cars happened to just pull in front of me right at this moment. That's like too funny. And I probably would have posted it on Facebook and said, isn't this hysterical? Like, you know, hey, the universe is talking to me. I would have thought it was cute, and I would have understood what you were describing about the meaning, but I would not have thought that it seriously was meaningful. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Like I said, I'm almost convinced I'm an atheist again, you know, and, you know, I went through that spiritual path, you know, and
I think many people have. And many people are still there, and many people go there, and it's, you know, I think people, you know, shift a lot back and forth. And
there's a lot of things about the, you know, the spiritual path, you know, that I keep, you know, like the deep breaths. You know, I suffer from anxiety and some depression, so you know, I've learned certain tricks along the way.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
But I'm not, you know, I hate to use the word God and, you know, entities and stuff like that because I really don't believe in them. You know, but anyway, that's I won't bother you guys anymore.
Oh, you're not bothering us. I appreciate the call. We had a lot of theist callers today, and I appreciated all of them. And I'm going to let you go because we have a couple of other ones. Hopefully, they'll be kind of quick round. I'm going to ask the crew to please stay a little bit, but let me know if you can't.
But I will say thank you guys very much. It is because of you guys that you have opened my mind again, you know.
Thank you.
Because I was, you know, I dug deep into that spiritual path. So.
All right. Well, I mean, people should explore, and they should feel empowered to explore. So, good for you for looking into things.
Thank you very much. You guys have a nice evening.
Okay, you too.
Thanks, Eddie.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. I'm going to try to hit these kind of quickly. Let's see. I know that poor Billy has been waiting since the beginning of the show, so I have to take Billy. Billy from New Orleans, you're on the line.
Hey, Billy.
Yes.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome.
I've tried for quite some time.
Welcome, welcome.
My story is kind of backwards. I went to Christianity as a way to rebel against my atheist family, and then
That's an interesting
through reading
one.
the Bible 3 times completely, it turned me into an atheist. I think everyone should read the Bible for that reason. Today was just to call and talk about Pascal's wager.
Yeah, it said you had
and
something to
how
say
if you-
about it.
Yeah, if you think about it properly, it's actually the exact opposite of what that argument says, because any monotheistic religion, which is what that argument applies to, it doesn't really apply in polytheistic religions,
Right.
all have very jealous and gods that want you to worship only them, and like the worst thing you could do is worship a god from a different religion. With all of the different proposed monotheistic gods and different sects of the monotheistic gods, it seems the better wager to not believe in any of them. Then if you die and you end up before God in judgment, then you can say, hey, well, I didn't believe in you, but I didn't believe in any of your
At least
your
I didn't
competitors
worship
either.
the competition. Right. No,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
It's
have very
kind of
low
like-
odds of being saved in such a situation.
Exactly. But if you're believing in any god and you end up before the wrong god, then he's going to judge you much more harshly for having believed in his competitors. So
Yeah.
that's just, I've spent quite a long time both researching religion and watching debates, and I've never really heard it phrased that way. That's what immediately popped into my mind when I think of Pascal's wager,
Yeah.
that you're actually much worse off if you believe in any god.
I
just
think
in terms
I
of
have. I
probability
mean,
alone.
I'm on this show, so I have heard that put forward. But I definitely think it's a fair response to say, what if you believe in the wrong God and you really, really upset the original God, the real God? All right. Well, I
All right, well,
apologize.
thank you guys so much for your show.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Thank
and
you.
You're doing
Thanks
wonderful
for
work for the
holding.
world.
I'm sorry that you had to hold so long, but unfortunately, we had tons of theists, and we give them priority if we can.
I'm a patient guy, and no one wants to hear
All right.
I agree with you. you
Okay.
know?
Well, thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Okay, so then let's go to Avery in Michigan, because I have a feeling that's going to be a quick one. Oh, gosh, I dropped Avery.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Okay, well, let me just say, I apologize, first of all. Avery, please feel free to post to the blog, but let me just say what the question was. It was, what did we feel was like the best arguments for God? And generally, I'm just like, yeah, they're not
I haven't heard
good
one
ones.
yet.
I'm so sorry, Avery. So sorry. Shout out to Avery. Like, oh my gosh. I knew I would do that one day.
Sorry. Call back in next time.
All right. So anyway, I don't have an answer for you, but again, feel free to use the resource at the blog to see if anybody else feels that there are convincing arguments. If I knew of, something that was like what would be better than other ones, I don't know.
I think if we had heard a convincing argument, we probably wouldn't be atheists. So, at least it wasn't convincing to us.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I don't feel, not even like better or best. It's hard to even rank them. I mean, obviously there are some that are just, way out there, and others that are less way out there, but they're still going to have, the ones that I've encountered will have, pretty deadly flaws.
Yeah.
So I apologize so much. All right, so let me try this one hitting the right button. This is Avi in Delhi. Is that correct? Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
Hi.
good.
Hi,
Hi.
John. Hi, Tracie.
Hi, Avi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
I just, first of all, I want to send out my best wishes to all those who were affected by Hurricane Harvey in Texas.
Thank you so much.
And, and I wanted to start off with that Isaac Asimov Memorial Debate 2016. I just have like a second to say about that. I actually watched that debate.
Okay.
And the biggest argument from that debate was, well, life is an emergent property of the universe, and universe is also an emergent property of the Big Bang Theory or any other hypothesis of a universe emerging. And emergence cannot actually be programmed as well we know programming or computing into the realm of human interface. So emergent properties can't actually be described with simulation. And the physicists on that panel, like Lisa Randall, Max Zore, and Neil, I guess they pretty much agree with that. Well, Lisa put it 10%, and Neil put it 40%. So.
And I guess
Yeah,
here's the
that's
thing,
about
though.
it.
Let me just, and I don't want to drag, I know I'm dragging the show out by interjecting this, but just to say, so we had, David who called in and gave his view on this, and then we had Dennis who called in and he gave just a slightly variant view. He was supportive of David in some ways and then also had some disagreements. Then you're calling in and you're saying, hey, I got this out of it and it's kind of a different thing. And I could go and watch it and I could get whatever I get out of it and it's whatever. But in the end, until they make, no, and I'm not criticizing you. Please understand. I just want to reiterate my point to the folks out there, which is at the end of the day, if it doesn't resolve anything yet, and physicists are looking into it, I am totally happy to let the physicists continue to look into it until it's resolved, and then they can let me know.
That's exactly what Neil deGrasse Tyson actually put it in his remarks at the start of the debate, that this is just like you're listening in to the scientist hashing out an hypothesis, which is not that it's true, which is not that it's possible. It's just a hashing out of ideas between some smart people who you're listening into.
And I'm glad they're doing it, because I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, of course. It would be amazing to find out something new in that realm, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Go ahead. You had something else, though, I think, to call about.
I see in our country, just about 2 weeks ago, there was this huge scandal. One spiritual leader, he got arrested for raping two girls.
I saw that, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I totally believe it. It was on BBC and all the major network news and on Al Jazeera news network as well. And, after watching all this, I just feel like no one is well equipped, at least in my country, to come up with something to counter them. They believe in a religious leader after a religious leader, another religious leader, one goes down, another comes up. Those millions of people who follow that person now follow that person. It's like they're completely blind.
Right, and just to Avi, I want to give some context here because not everybody might have seen that article, but you can tell me if I got it wrong. But what I saw, the reason that it made so much news was that not only was he a religious leader that sexually assaulted his followers, but he also, after he was convicted, the rest of his followers got very angry, and there was a huge number of them. So they were very, very angry that he was convicted for sexual assault because he was a religious leader.
And that's what's so saddening about it. That's what I just don't understand. What would make them see? These people, they got together, killed more than 30 people, injured more than 250. It's just heartbreaking to not be able to see the reason within the realm of humanity. Even if you argue,
they had formed a mob. They had formed a mob that went out and actually got angry, and they weren't. According to the article, this is not the first time this has happened in support of religious leaders who have been convicted of crimes.
This is not and that is what I was just getting to. Is there any way to hash this out with these people? In our country, even touching a cow is a religious crime. We don't have enough traffic police for our traffic, but we have enough for patrolling the cows because they're religious.
Okay. Well, I empathize because I understand what you're saying. I get frustrated with how do we address religious or I guess non-skeptical views, people that are willing to put these beliefs before human well-being. We even have that here, although I understand what you're saying about the difference in scope, the difference in intensity of what we saw happening in India. It definitely was a whole other level than what we get in the United States, or from what I normally would see. I certainly wouldn't call it a normal thing for a huge mob of people to show up at a religious leader's conviction and then riot as a result of the fact that they were arrested for raping people. So I hear you, but I don't have an answer. I mean, I don't know.
Just speak out against it as much as you can. Just raise people's consciousness, challenge.
Yeah, there was this one guy in our country who just spoke against a religious leader. I think it happened 2 months ago. He's a very famous whiner. Who makes wine videos. I didn't
Not that he just complains about like stuff. That. Right, yeah, no.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That came out wrong. And he posted something about a religious deity, and got shut down because they came up to his house and assaulted him. And this is what happens in this country. And I will be truly honest with you. I've grown up in Canada, actually. Mm-hmm. And my family is still in India. And when I came back to India, the first biggest struggle for me was to get through to my parents, because we were not on the same page at any time. And I didn't know how to handle that, because I grew up outside their region of influence, and I kind of dropped all the nonsense religious stuff.
And I do want to, here's something I want to say, Avi. We get this call, like I said, we get this call from people who are in religious homes, even here in the States. The idea of how do I deal with, the religious differences in my family is a plague of epidemic proportions.
No, I totally get that.
I'm going to send you to the blog and let you go there and just kind of ask for feedback. We have definitely done shows where we've answered this before about how to address religion with family, which I know was your primary question. But the fact is it's a difficult thing to navigate with anyone. And it may be one of those things where you find the areas of agreement before you consider disagreements. Like, for example, I'm not sure, but perhaps your family would be open to a discussion on how being violently in support of a rapist religious leader is not a good idea, even if a person believes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they're not in support of those religious leaders, but still, at the bottom of that pit, there's still those same deities.
Yes.
There's still those same dancing earthquake maniac
I
deities
understand.
who are just
the studio's giving me the kind of thumbs up to say, let me recommend Kumare, right? Now, have you seen the film Kumare?
No, I haven't.
Kumare is about an American-born person who hails from India who creates a cult. And it's a documentary. It's not a fiction. And so he runs into some issues. I think the only relevance I can think to how it relates to this conversation is just how simply a person can create a following. Like, it's very easy to create a following, and he does create quite a following based on starting out with a publicist and one disciple that he hires, right, to be his disciple, and the other one is publicizing him, and her job is to book him to come and talk, and eventually it just grows into a life of its own, something that he starts as an experiment. And I'm not going to give spoilers, but it is a good film. I don't know that it actually demonstrates devotees who would go out and commit crimes for him. They were certainly devoted to him, but I'm not sure that they reached quite that level, that if he raped some of the adherents, they would support him.
I just can't support the idea of absolute devotion. It's
dangerous, and it's dangerous in very obvious ways when you see the things that happened in India just like a week ago.
The idea of absolutes is just like, no, you cannot do that.
Right.
Just think for yourself and imagine what would it be like if you were put in the same situation.
Well, I
These days I'm just
definitely,
stuck.
I definitely, we're in big agreement on this, and I think that John is right, that you just have to go out and talk as much as you can about these things as well as you can. I would, because of the level and, the depth of some of this stuff in your situation, even though you're saying your family may not be quite to that level, if you want to talk to them about these things, the human factor of that's really horrible that people were killed over this, might be a good line of discussion in order to talk about maybe not talking about atheism versus their beliefs, but to talk more along the lines of what happens when beliefs are brought to this level of harm, of gross harm.
Yeah, that could be a good approach to it.
And just see, that would at least it would open a dialogue, it would give you a feeling for their leanings, and it could potentially make an opening later where you could talk about deeper things.
Yeah.
I'm talking all the time, John. You know you can jump in.
Yeah.
I don't have to
John,
invite you.
have an input?
You're the co-host. Say things.
Yeah.
Okay, people are going to attack me after the show, and they're
No,
going to be
they
like, you
won't.
didn't let John talk.
I always say they let me talk as much as I talk.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're right.
You're right. Why don't you just twist it while you...
I might kind of sound like John being an anti-atheist because I actually kind of tried to be one. Because whenever people come up to me with their God claims, I just ask, can your God create a boulder that he cannot
so
lift?
big he can't lift it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then obviously...
it's a nice opening line to everything because it puts them in a dilemma. Okay.
Hi, I'm
wait
Tracie.
for a
Can
second.
God create a rock so big he can't lift it? Yeah, that's how I start every conversation.
No, it's anyone who just starts to come up to me and, your friend tells me that you don't believe in God. And it's like, okay, let's do this again.
At least it starts you out. Is your God bound by logic, or is your God truly, even got the goods even over logic? Yeah, I don't know. Tune in next week for answers to these and other exciting questions, lines of thought around simulated universes and whatnot. Okay.
I tune in every week, and I would probably have some input for next week as well.
All right. Well, thank you for your views, and thank you for
so much, Tracie. Thanks.
Yeah,
thank you, John, for listening to me.
Thank you to the crew for hanging in there because I always go late. Thank you for John for hanging in there because I always go late. Remember, we're going to dinner at Star of India on Anderson Lane.
Anderson Lane.
Yeah, and
click that donate button and let's see how much we can raise.
Donate. I don't know where we're at, but they said we're matching up to $1,000, and I'm gonna say, I really think you people probably did better than that today. So we'll see. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the audience. You were great.
This is Russell Glasser, host of The Atheist Experience. You know, The Atheist Experience is made possible by volunteers and the generous support of viewers like you. If the promotion of positive atheist culture and separation of church and state are values that you hold, please consider contributing by becoming an ACA member or visiting our product page at evolvefish.com under the Partner tab. Thank you.